This is the kind of robot vacuum that makes you realize you have been living with dirty floors a little longer than you thought. The biggest difference for me is that I stopped thinking about vacuuming for weeks at a time, and my floors still look consistently clean. This is the Shark Artificial Intelligence Ultra Voice Control Robot Vacuum with Matrix Clean Navigation. It sits in that higher-end robot vacuum category, where the whole point is hands-off maintenance, smarter navigation, and strong everyday cleaning across both carpet and hard floors. I think it makes the most sense for people like me who have a busy schedule, pets, or both, and who want something that can run often without feeling like another chore to manage. If you are the type of person who does not mind emptying a bin every other day, and you only run a robot vacuum once a week, you can spend less and still be happy. But if you want the routine to basically run itself, this one is built for that. Right away, what I noticed in daily use is how much the physical design is about reducing little annoyances. The robot itself has a low profile that gets under a lot of furniture in my place, including a couch that most vacuums bump into and give up on. The top has simple controls that are actually useful when you just want to start a quick clean without opening your phone. The front has a camera and sensors, and that matters because the way it moves feels more confident than the random bounce-style bots. Underneath, the brush and the side sweepers are the parts that decide whether pet hair becomes a problem, and I have had plenty of robot vacuums that end up with hair wrapped everywhere. With this one, I still get some hair buildup over time, because that is reality, but it is more manageable. I do a quick check and clean on the brush every so often and it stays consistent. The base is the other half of the experience. I have been using it long enough to appreciate how much I do not miss emptying a dusty bin every day. The whole point of the self-empty system is that you run the robot more often, and you are not punished for it with more maintenance. It pulls the debris out after a run, and the bin in the base holds enough that I genuinely forget about it. Shark says up to 60 days, and I will just say this depends on your home. In my case, with regular runs, a mix of hard floors and rugs, and a pet that sheds, it still goes a long time before I feel like I need to deal with it. That is the benefit that actually changes your routine. Setup was straightforward. I charged it, connected it to my wireless network, and let it start mapping. The first few runs are where you see whether a robot vacuum is going to be smart or just lucky. It moved with purpose, slowed down around furniture, and it did not spend an eternity trapped in the same corner. The app experience is mostly smooth, and the real-time map is genuinely helpful because I can see where it has been and where it still needs to go. I also like being able to send it back to the dock from my phone when I am trying to take a call, and I do not want it finishing the last 2 minutes of a run right outside the door. Responsiveness is good. When I press clean, it starts quickly. When I tell it to dock, it does not wander around confused for ages. I have had robots in the past that seemed to forget where home was and just circled until the battery died. This one docks reliably in my place. It lines up, pulls in, and then you hear the self-empty cycle. That sound is not quiet, and I want to be honest about that. It is not something I would run in the same room while someone is sleeping. The vacuuming itself is reasonable, but the emptying blast is loud for a short moment. For me, it is worth it because it happens quickly, but it is something you will notice. Performance is where I spent the most time paying attention, because navigation does not matter if the floors still feel gritty. On hard floors, it does a solid job pulling up dust, crumbs, and that fine debris that builds up near baseboards. The side sweeper helps, but like most robot vacuums, it will not perfectly detail every edge the way a full-size vacuum with a hose can. On rugs and carpets, it does better than I expected for everyday maintenance. It picks up visible debris, and it does a good job with pet hair that sits on the surface. On thicker carpet, it is not replacing a deep weekly clean with a full-size vacuum, at least not in my home, but it does keep things looking presentable, and it cuts down how often I feel like I need to do the heavy vacuuming. Matrix Clean Navigation is one of those features that sounds like marketing until you watch the pattern. In the rooms where I used to see random mist strips from older robots, this one is more consistent. It feels like it is actually trying to cover the space methodically instead of just roaming and hoping. The practical result is fewer spots where I look down and see crumbs it somehow skipped. It still happens occasionally, especially around chair legs and tight clusters of furniture, but overall the coverage is better than the average robot I have owned. I tested it in a few real scenarios that matter in normal life. One was my home office, which is basically the worst case for robot vacuums because of chair wheels, cables, and tight turns. It handled the chair base pretty well, and it navigated around desk legs without repeatedly slamming into them. I still recommend picking up loose cables because any robot vacuum can get tangled, and I do not care how smart the branding is. Another test was the kitchen after cooking. I dropped a little dry rice and some crumbs near the edge of a rug and on the tile. It picked up most of it on the first pass, then came back and cleaned the area more thoroughly as it continued the run. The rug edge did not trip it up as much as some robots, which matters because those transitions are where a lot of them get stuck and waste time. For pet owners, the biggest day-to-day win is how it handles the constant reappearance of fur. I ran it on a regular schedule, and the difference was that fur stopped collecting in the usual corners. The robot keeps up with it, and the base means I am not constantly emptying a tiny bin packed with fluff. I also noticed fewer dust bunnies under the bed, which is exactly the kind of area I never want to crawl under and clean myself. One specific use case where it fit my routine was running it while I was working on my computer. I set it to clean the main living area, and I could keep doing what I was doing without babysitting it. When it finished, it went back, emptied itself, and recharged. That whole loop is the reason to buy a robot vacuum like this. It is not about watching it work. It is about forgetting you even own it until you notice the floor looks better. The smarter features that actually improved my experience were home mapping and the ability to see progress in real time, the consistent navigation pattern that reduces missed spots, and the self-empty base that cuts down maintenance. Voice control is nice when my hands are full, and it fits naturally into a smart home setup, but I will admit I still use the app and scheduling more than voice commands. Scheduling is what makes it feel automatic, and once I had a schedule that matched my week, it just became part of the background. There are a few minor frustrations. The self-empty sound is the big one. Another is that you still need to do occasional maintenance, like cleaning the brush and checking the sensors. Also, no robot vacuum is perfect around clutter. If you leave small items on the floor, you are still rolling the dice. The good news is that when I keep my floors reasonably clear, it is dependable. So here is where I land. If you want a robot vacuum that you can run often, trust to navigate intelligently, and rely on without constantly emptying the bin, this one makes a lot of sense. It is best for busy households, pet owners, and anyone who wants cleaner floors with less daily effort. If you expect a robot vacuum to replace every deep clean on thick carpet, you may still want a full-size vacuum for that heavier job. But as an everyday cleaner that keeps your home consistently tidy, it has earned a spot in my routine. Check the comments of this video for a link to see the current pricing of the Shark AI Ultra Voice Control Robot Vacuum with Matrix Clean Navigation.